Come on. This was working this morning.
Hi everyone. I'm Sunny, and welcome to our first episode of the Sunflower Talk.
And I'm Bud, your host for today.
Bud, we've been over this. I'm hosting the interview today.
It should be me. I have the bow tie.
Why are you wearing a bow tie?
Why aren't you wearing a bow tie? Bow tie equals authority.
Finally. Bud, Sunny's hosting. We drew straws.
No! Justice for the bow tie!
Okay, fine. How about you can ask the last question?
Okay, deal.
Sorry about her. Anyways, this is a new segment where we bring on creators in the indie animation community to talk more about their projects.
We'll ask some questions, and then we'll get some audience questions too.
And our very first guest on the Sunflower Talk is the creator of Lumi and the Great Big Galaxy.
Lumi and the Great Big Galaxy is an original animated series about 6 aliens traveling the galaxy to help a lost star return home. They are currently crowdfunding for their pilot episode. Please welcome Evan!
Hi, I'm Evan, and I am the creator of Lumi and the Great Big Galaxy.
Thank you for coming, Evan. Our first question is about Lumi and the Great Big Galaxy. What is it about, and how did you come up with the concept?
It's a story about 6 aliens traveling the galaxy to get a lost star home, all while trying to protect the galaxy from a deity that broke from its seal. It's pretty episodic in nature, I would say. There's a few tidbits here and there of a story that's pieced together, a story like in the background that's being built up to till the end of the series itself. I came up with the series right after I found out that my favorite TV show of all time, Wander Over Yonder, was canceled, and I was very upset about it. I had been developing these little alien OCs of mine since 2013 when Wander started first airing, and they were basically just Wander OCs that I roleplayed with my friends on Tumblr, and eventually it started to branch off and develop into its own thing, and it was only about, I think, 2016 or 2017, I started taking this story a little bit more seriously. And I kept developing them until 2017, where I got a good grasp on the characters' designs, and I kept just developing them throughout the years until they became what they are now.
Oh, I love that concept. So adventurous and exciting.
Ground control to Major Tom.
Next question. How would you describe your workflow?
My workflow is basically, if I get a new idea, I try and jump on it immediately, or at the very least try and write it down. But before I had a story in mind, I just drew these guys a lot, and that was still kind of like my thing, where I drew the fun little guys I had in my head, and I just put them in situations. I just threw them together. I explored their character dynamics together throughout the drawings, and I kind of like fleshed the world around them as I did that. I of course watched shows to kind of like get inspired by those dynamics and see what I could do with like the inspirations that I took in for Lumi. But yeah, that's my personal workflow.
Always a good reminder to write it down before you forget.
Forget what?
Evan, what has been your experience in the indie animation community?
It's been pretty good, honestly. I'm definitely not as big as a few of the other names in the indie animation, I guess you could say, space. But honestly, I don't really mind that. I'm not really looking to be anyone big. I'm just looking to tell my story and just, see if I can make something fun out of it. And if not, that's okay too. I'd say I've made a couple of good friends in it, and I'm really excited to see where they're going and where their projects are headed. And it's just really cool to see a lot of people wanting to support it and, just give it the love it deserves. It's really awesome to see my friends get their flowers as they work on their own thing.
That's what it's all about, growing together. Next question. What's your favorite part about creating?
I think my favorite part of creating is that there's no limits. Like, you can just come up with any episode. Like, say I have an episode where Lumi gets stuck in like a pickle jar or something, and that's the entire episode. Like, how do you make it funny? How do you make it interesting? How do you make it intriguing? Like, there's so many ways you can go about it that isn't just like open up the jar and they're free. Like, you could make that scenario like comedic. And that was just an example, of course. There's just a lot of ways you can just make something goofy and silly expand to something like dramatic, and I just think that's pretty interesting to me. And it's also kind of like, again, going into Wander, where I found the most interesting when it gets a little bit serious in the end.
I guess you could say that's out of this world. Never mind. Blossom, save me, please.
Now, we have some questions from your audience.
But wait! First, let's take a look at this episode's sponsors! Wow! So pretty! Ooh! Go support! Support, 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 support. Do they make bow ties? Now back to your regularly scheduled programming. Woo!
First question. What were the earliest days of Lumi and the Great Big Galaxy's creation like?
I mentioned it before, but it was basically like a roleplay blog on Tumblr that was just me writing with my friends about their OCs. But aside from that, I believe the earliest days of Lumi were its webcomic, which ran for about 3 years before it was taken off the internet. By my own choice, obviously. But I find myself looking back at that comic with, of course, embarrassment, but also fondness, because it helped me develop a lot of characters. And while I don't think it was a good story by any means, I still am pretty proud of what I managed to create, regardless. And I'm happy to know that I was able to explore my story in a different medium before I jumped into the indie animation boom, I guess you could call it.
Very interesting. Next fan question. Were there ideas you wanted to incorporate but had to scrap for a tighter story?
A lot of the ideas I had were mostly just episodes in themselves, so I suppose it would really just depend on if we're only able to make the pilot or we're able to make a few more episodes. But I would say that the idea that I've had for a good while is just the idea of Lumi finally returning home, and what would that mean for the characters that they met along the way? What would that mean for Siona and her friends finally having to say goodbye after going on like this big adventure? And what would it mean for Hala and Ilios and Void even too? Like, how would that change the story, assuming that Void hasn't been defeated or is still around, or Ilios returned? Like, I just think that's something that I would love to explore someday. I just think it's really interesting and has a lot of potential.
Last fan question. Were there any inspirations for the series that came from unexpected places?
I think one of the biggest inspirations was Cucumber Quest by Gigi. I used to read that comic all the time in middle school, and it was something that really inspired me to jump into making comics as well as tell its story. I've gotten a lot of my humor from that, and it's something that kind of like was really interesting to see grow and develop as I did. And even though it's no longer updating, it's still something I hold with a lot of fondness in my heart, and it's something I'm really happy I got to experience while it was still running. And I guess another inspiration I would have to say is Monkey Wrench, my friend Zero's project. I love sci-fi and space, and it's just really awesome seeing that someone out there in the indie sphere is as much as a sci-fi nerd as I am. So I'd really recommend going and checking out Monkey Wrench series if you possibly can. There's about 3 episodes out, and there's a 4th one currently in development. I've got a lot of friends and cool people working on it, so if you could check it out, subscribe to their YouTube or check out their Patreon, it would really be cool.
Alright, I think we have time for one final question. Bud?
That's me!
Okay, Bud. Go ahead and ask it.
Your final question is... What is your favorite pasta? And why is it bow tie pasta?
Okay, and that's it for today. Thank you so much, Evan, for coming on the show. Where can the audience find you?
You can find me at Startees everywhere on Twitter, Blue Sky, Tumblr, Instagram. You can also find Lumi at LATGBG. Thank God I said that right. On Twitter and Blue Sky, also on Instagram. You can also find me on TikTok where I post goofy little things. And I'm also on YouTube if you'd like to subscribe there. Please consider checking out and supporting the next Kickstarter whenever we get that out. Kickstarter/back so we can finish this thing.
What is the meaning of life? Are we in the Matrix?
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in.
Have an indie creator we should interview next? Let us know in the comments.
I'm Sunny.
I'm Bud. Wait, why am I blue?
And I'm Blossom, and we're signing off.